Good afternoon, everyone. Live from Silicon Valley, California. This is Success Sadhana. My name is JM, and I welcome you all to a program today. We will discuss 3 stages of spiritual advancement. Vaish is traveling today. He is in Southern California for a spiritual tour, but he has encouraged us to continue to keep the transcendental vibration going. So thank you for joining today. Thanks, Shweka, for managing the social media and going live. And thanks Charles and Sonali also for joining. So hope you all are doing good and looking forward to a good weekend ahead. Okay, so we'll get started. We'll do some breathing exercise and mantra meditation to center ourselves, and then we'll go through a few slides based on what Vaishya said. Okay. So please sit up a little straight than what you have been a few moments ago, and start taking deep breaths, deeper than normal. And as you inhale and exhale, please focus on the breath. It's lunchtime, so you can leave all the office work, all the weekend preparation, everything out for a few minutes as you focus on inhaling and exhaling. Inhale and exhale. Inhale in, exhale. As we take deep breath in and deep breath out, let's use the power of our attention to relax. So turn your attention to your feet and ask your feet to relax. It's magical if you put your attention to your feet and say to relax. You'll see all the stress level going down. Turn your attention to your legs and ask the legs to relax. Attention to your stomach. Ask it to relax. Ask your hands, palms, wrist, arms, relax. Ask your shoulder, neck, face, relax. Ask your eyes, eyebrows, forehead, head to relax. And to take deep breath in and deep breath out. Now we'll do a few mantras. We'll do the Om mantra. We'll take deep breath in, then we'll say the mantra Om. You can join me if you'd like. Deep breath in. Om. As you say the Om mantra, please feel the vibration in your heart region, in your face. Deep breath in. Om. 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 The final one. Deep breath in. Om. Please feel the vibration. And let's be grateful for the opportunity today. Practice mantra meditation. Slowly rub your hands. Open your eyes. And let's join back to the Zoom room. Thanks, Charles. Nice weather out there. Nice trees. Thank you for brightening our day. We have Charles, Himanshu, Jesse, Mayank, Autopilot, Raj, Rashi, and Sankari. Thank you everyone for joining. So as I mentioned, Vaish, he's on tour today to Southern California. But thank you for joining. We'll review some of the content he has shared in the past and discuss and learn from each other. Let me share my screen. If we can see the screen. So to understand the stages of spiritual development, let's understand the basic system, education system. We have two types of education system. One, which we all are quite well aware of, Para Vidya, which is basically the material knowledge about this world and how to interact with this world. And in the ancient wisdom literature, they're all detailed in the Vedas and corollaries, including Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Samaveda, and Atharva Veda. So that speak about Paravidya. Next is Paravidya, which is transcendental knowledge, which is knowledge about world which is beyond this material world, the spiritual world and spiritual entities, spiritual energies. They're all detailed in Vedanta Sutra, including Srimad Bhagavatam. The Apara Vidya talks about focus on 4 primary interests of living entities. They include dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Dharma is regulated living, various do's and don'ts, what you should do. Artha is economic stability. Kama is sense gratification and enjoyment. And lastly, moksha, which is liberation from material bondage. And typically, I mean, you can start from any of these quadrants, but typically we start with artha, which is economic stability, so that at least we have ability to maintain ourselves, our body in this material world. And as we start maintaining and we become, there is some stability, we start to and want to enjoy through various senses by having good food, etc. And so that is kama, sense gratification. And as we progress, these both economic pursuit as well as sense gratification pursuit is unlimited. It doesn't matter how much you get, you will want to have more. That's why there is a dharma quadrant, which basically is to have a regulated living, so that we don't pursue without any regulations unlimitedly and get entangled in this material world. And then guided by dharma, finally we try to pursue moksha, or liberation from material bondage. And in many sense, that's the reason dharma is listed as first, because though typically we start with economic stabilities, if we are guided by dharma, which is the right way to pursue both the economic stability and sense gratification, then we have better chance of reaching liberation. So those are the 4 areas of for interest of living entities and how they are articulated in the ancient wisdom literature. Similarly, we also have Paravidya, which talks about the three stages of spiritual advancement. That entails sambandha. Sambandha basically means relationship. So what is our eternal relationship with Supreme? Abhideya. So once you know the relationship, what are the means of attaining our object of pursuit, which is Supreme? And then finally, prayojana, which is ultimate goal of life, with love. So prayojana is the goal. Abhideya is means of attaining the goal to maintain or flourish in the sambandha or eternal relationship with Supreme. So those are detailed in the various ancient wisdom literature. So towards that, Vaish had shared a video previously, which very nicely touched upon these aspects. So let's hear the video, and then we'll discuss some of these items. Please let me know if you can't hear the sound.
Hey everybody, greetings from the countryside just outside of Rome. Since I was on with you last on...
Are you able to hear the sound? I couldn't, so I was not sure.
Yeah, I could. Yeah.
Oh, you could hear the sound?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Just a second. Okay, sorry, I'm just opening in another browser. Let me share again.
Hey everybody, greetings from the countryside just outside of Rome. Since I was on with you last on Success Sadhana, I had to go to New York City for a festival, which was quite extraordinary. I have been attending that festival, at least periodically, since 1976 when it first started. And this year people were especially exuberant to be out there. It's a festival of the chariots. And actually in 1976 we were able to get a permit to go take the chariots down Fifth Avenue all the way to a park where there's a large festival. Large means that they served out about 10,000 plates of vegetarian food. And there are several stages for kirtan music, spiritual music, and numerous other events there at the park all day long. And it was well attended, perhaps as much as it was in 1976 when we had the largest crowd, I think, on record, but this probably equaled it because people are happy to be out and happy to be at a festival. And from New York, I came to Rome, where I'm attending a meeting of book publishers, and I'm a part of a book trust. And here in the countryside near Rome, it's a little bit quiet and rustic, and there's a lot I've been thinking about here. Before I came, I was traveling with one of my colleagues, and he was speaking about a principle that I think is very important and in relationship to the lessons of the Golden Monk. One of them is how much our lives are controlled by metaphor. And when we look at our lives as being a race, of course everyone's heard this, we're in a race. Sometimes we call it the rat race. Then we have to work extraordinarily hard to keep up. I mean, races happen periodically and we do the best we can in it, but if our whole life is a race, how are we living? How are we pushing ourselves and missing a lot? Another metaphor that we often hear about life is it's a ladder and we have to climb it. But a good question to ask oneself is, where are we going? What's at the top of the ladder? In fact, there's an old admonition that you should be aware of where the ladder is taking you before you start climbing it anyway. But another thought that's given by the Golden Monk, who said, Prema Pumarto Mahan. Human life is especially meant to develop prema, or love. And the idea is that we're connected to something much bigger than ourselves. We're connected to the Supreme. A love supreme is what we're ultimately satisfied by. Being connected to knowing our original source and being connected to it. And what's the most powerful connector in this world? It's love. And what if we lived for love? Well, that's what the Golden Monk said. Prema Pumarto Mahan. The ultimate artha, or the ultimate value in life, is realized by living for love. And so that's what Bhakti Yoga is. And the Golden Monk suggested that that's a much better metaphor with which to frame your life, to keep yourself actually happy. Because whatever situation we're in, if our ultimate goal is to develop an awareness, first of all, of ourselves, that we're not our physical bodies, nor are we our minds, and that we have an origin that we're intimately connected with, and that there's a process for being in touch with that original source, and that it's a very loving connection. It is an indisputable fact that every living being displays some kind of affection, and we can notice it in all forms of life. That, according to the Golden Monk, is our nature. So when we're in alignment with our nature, that's called dharma. And when we're out of our alignment, then it's adharma, and we don't feel happy. So it's a rather simple concept. One of the great poets who taught about the Golden Monk was named Bhaktivinoda, and he sang in Bengali a song, Jeev Krishna Das E Bishwas Korle to Ardukonai. if you get back in alignment with your dharma, with your real nature, then immediately you become happy. When we're misaligned, then we feel what's called duk. Duk means a sense of life being out of order. Did you ever feel like that? Anyway, right now I'm walking through an olive grove, which is pretty common. I'm going to turn a little bit so you can see the olive trees here. This place reminds me a lot of California. Every time I come to Italy, a lot of the flora and fauna are similar. Giving you a little panoramic view here. There's some quaint house behind me on the hill. Nice cloud cover today. It's been in the 90s in the afternoon, but you barely notice it because there's a breeze that comes in off of the ocean, off the sea anyway, and from quite a distance away, but it's significant. It's quite nice. Yesterday, I went with the group of publishers that I told you about to Rome, and I hadn't been in the Vatican since 1973, the summer of 1973, when my parents took my brother and me there, and I was quite impressed by the artistry, and was again this time just the grandeur of the place, and thinking about how in every era there are various ways that people distinguish themselves. Nowadays we've become taken a lot with technology and the artistry and the patience that one has to build such beautiful, architecturally, aesthetically outstanding structures, what to speak of the sculptures inside and so forth, has diminished quite a bit in a society where we take up these metaphors, life is a race, life is a ladder, and forget about how we need beauty, we need love, and it does touch the soul when we go into even aesthetically outstanding environments, and we can feel our connection with that. I'll be checking in a few other places, hopefully, and I hope all of you are doing well. One principle that I keep always when I'm traveling, of course there's always time changes, jet lag and things like that, but is to keep the transcendental vibration going. Your spiritual practice is portable. You can take it with you wherever you go. And it's amazing because whatever environment that I go to, because I have my practice so solidly in place, I do the same practice in any environment, and immediately the environment around me adjusts because my consciousness is what I perceive, what I use to, or is the lens through which I perceive my environment, but the environment also changes as well. And this is one of the most important aspects of a spiritual practice. It doesn't matter where you are. It's not the environment that defines us. It's our own consciousness, and we can develop our consciousness or we can just let it slip. It's just like with diet. You are what you eat. And we are what we practice, and especially the transcendental sound vibration that we take in every day, but we can regulate that, and that's one of the main practices of Bhakti Yoga. So keeping the mantra going, counting it every day, and also reading from the wisdom literatures is especially edifying. It's something that brings the consciousness up no matter where you happen to be or whatever else is going on around you. So my humble advice, please keep the transcendental vibration going. I'm missing you all and look forward to being back there as soon as I get back from my travels. Please take good care, and I'll see you soon.
That was a very sweet video. Thanks to Vash. It was really nice to hear how we compared that in addition to all the material advancement we get, we also earn for beauty and love. And the ultimate goal of life is to attain love in relationship to Supreme. So thanks, Vaish, again for that video. So we'll continue with a couple of more slides. So I'm sharing my screen. Okay, hopefully you can see that. So relationship, I mean, we all understand relationship, but I just want to break it down as how it was outlined in the spiritual wisdom literature as well. That in a given relationship, Prabhupada gave this example. Let's take a relationship in business. There are actors in that relationship. So we have businessmen, and then there is a provision of or the end goal of that business, and we attain the end goal through defining the relationship, executing or acting in the relationship, and then finally attaining the goal. So Prabhupada gave an example, like let's say two businessmen, a supplier and a customer come together. Both of them want to make profit. That's the prayojan or the goal. And supplier intends to sell the goods for some amount, and the buyer intends to purchase the goods, maybe either to resell or maybe do some manufacturing and sell it at a value-added price. So once they come together, they sign the contract and define the relationship. The supplier will say, I will be giving you this goods, this service on this date at this time. The buyer will be indicating that, I'll make this much payment in return for the goods. So that's defining contract or sambandha. And once they sign the contract, then they execute the contract. So they exchange. The supplier actually goes about delivering the goods or services, and the buyer goes about making payments. And once that exchange or action in relationship is completed, they finally attain the provision or goal that they had, which is to make profit. So like how transactionally this is carried out, similarly, even in material and spiritual life, we understand our goal, understand our relationship to the goal, and execute on it to attain our goal. Let's see how wisdom literature defined those stages. First is sambandha, or the knowledge. Sambandha, as I mentioned, is a relationship. So relationship, there are two actors in the relationship, which includes self and the Supreme. So first we need to understand ourselves so that we know what part or what role we have to play in the relationship. As you know, we are not our bodies, but consciousness, which pervades the entire body. And once consciousness leaves the body, then body is not useful. And this, the consciousness, we are eternal, indestructible, unborn, ever existing, and immutable. So this very much resonates why several of the things we pursue. We want permanent happiness, like happiness which lasts forever. We want to live forever. We don't like any change. I mean, if we are in a state, we want it to be stable, right? We seek stability. So they're all qualities which are inherent in us, which is why we pursue those aspects. And the wisdom literature, like Bhagavad Gita, they also mention that we can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, or not moistened by water, or withered by the wind. So, which means none of the metal elements which are there can touch us or impact us or harm us. And we continuously pass from one body to the next. So as long as we have the metal desire, the metal energy keeps accommodating our desire by giving us different bodies which are uniquely suited to fulfill our desires. So that's knowledge about the self, and which we have discussed in the past. Similarly, we have knowledge of this. We need to understand Supreme. And in Bhagavad Gita and as well as Srimad Bhagavatam, the descriptions of Supremes are mentioned. That includes, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, even those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows in truth. Which means, like given we have material senses which are very limited by nature, understanding the unlimited is very difficult unless the unlimited reveals himself. And that's when we come together with other spiritualists who are also in this path of spiritual quest, and we discuss with them, we learn with them, we are guided to various wisdom literature. Then we get to know to a certain extent. And Supreme, he's the original or supreme consciousness. He is the cause of all causes. So everything emanates from the Supreme, whether it's spiritual energy, spiritual world, spiritual beings like us, or the metal energy and all the metal universes. And inherently we understand that there has to be a source. If you look at the description of how this metal world or universe came about in scientific literature, it's said maybe Big Bang started it. There was a big bang, big noise. We started then chain reaction and created this universe. Or there is another theory where something came out of nothing, and that resulted in this universe being created. Yeah, it's a theory, and maybe theoretically it's possible, but I'm always curious how something can come out of nothing. And I wish maybe I had a bank account where out of nothing, something can keep coming up every day, so that I don't have to work. I can keep getting money every day out of nothing, and I can keep serving others. But jokes aside, there has to be a source from which everything has emanated. And that source, the Supreme, is a master of all the three potencies, which includes Chit Shakti, Maya Shakti, and Tathastha Shakti. So Chit Shakti is the spiritual energy, the Supreme itself, through which everything is emanated. Maya Shakti is this, Prakriti is this metal energy through which the entire universe is created. Chit Shakti is conscious. Maya Shakti or metal energy is not conscious. It's a dead matter. And it has to have consciousness. It organizes around consciousness. And lastly, Tathastha Shakti, which is basically us, the living energy or the marginal energy, which we have emanated from Supreme, but we are given free will. We can make choice, and we can be influenced to either turn towards Chit Shakti or the Supreme, or towards Maya. So when we focus on all the metal world, all the sense objects in this world, then we are turning towards Maya. But if we focus on the source, then we are turning towards Supreme. And the Supreme is master of all the six fortunes. All the wealth belongs to him. The Supreme strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. So despite having everything, because Supreme is the source of everything, so he has to have, he should be the most wealthiest, should have the most strength, the most beautiful person. And despite all this, he is also the most renunciate. That is, though he has all this, he's still not attached to any of these elements. And everything rests upon Supreme. The Supreme, same as how pearls are strung on a thread. So all the living entities, the material world, everything, they are resting on the Supreme. And the third aspect of relationship, once we understand ourselves as well as the Supreme, then we need to have the knowledge of the relationship. So like, why were we created, and what's our purpose in life, and how should we execute, etc. So the wisdom literature say that living beings were created by the Supreme to exchange love, because when you have to exchange, you need somebody to receive and reciprocate. And we do have the free will so that we can choose to love or reject the Supreme. So that's the summary given in wisdom literature about Sambandha, or the understanding of ourselves, Supreme, and the relationship we have with them. I'll just pause for a few seconds to take any questions, comments, any reflections that you may have before we go through some of the other slides in the deck. Yeah, please, Charles, go ahead. Thanks for...
Yeah, thank you so much, Sam. I appreciate how you so thoroughly covered all of this, and it got me thinking quite a bit, and also feeling very aligned with myself through the meditation and hearing advice and hearing you speak as well. A few things that came to mind, maybe I'll just put them all out there. Feel free to address any of them, but I did want to share. The first one was around what you talked about in terms of love, and realistically, and candidly, where part of where my mind went was there are some things, some experiences in life that maybe you're not inclined to love as much, and so how does that factor into what you were saying? And how do we get better at loving those things that we're less inclined to love? Another one was about this idea about our purpose and where we're going, and I think some of what you said gave me some insight into that, in terms of you talked about moving from one body to the next based on our desires. And so perhaps it's worth looking at our desires to figure out, perhaps it's worth looking at what we're chasing and our desires to figure out, why we're born and our purpose. Maybe that can inform the other. And then I also was curious too, just how to get plugged into some of these events that are happening, like the festival. That sounds very interesting, and just any opportunity to spend more time with Vice should be great, and others that are part of the community. I had one other point, I can't remember it right now, but if I do, I'll bring it up.
Thanks, Charles. Thanks for those questions and sharing your thoughts. On the festival, yeah, the Festival of Charity in New York is coming up. I can send the details to you. It's coming up shortly. I think it's 8th or 9th, I forget. I'll look up and give you that. Now, just to recap the other two questions you had, one was, I think, I forget. I think, is it how? What is the goal, and how to?
Yeah. So in terms of living to love, yeah, and I would say in my experience, and maybe others resonate with this too, but there are some things in life that are just harder to love. Whether it's even if we're looking at like a disease, or even experiences or people you encounter, right? But if we want to continue to advance spiritually and kind of attain that goal of being able to choose love over hate in difficult situations, how do we sort of approach that and think about it? And then the second one was an insight about the things we're chasing, our desires, and forming our purpose. And actually, I just remember the third one, which was about I started to think. I remember the metaphor Vice mentioned in terms of climbing the ladder. And as you were talking about the spiritual attainment, it seemed like a very high order. Definitely one, I think that's, worthwhile. There are others, maybe just pursuing wealth or money for money's sake isn't like, yes, that's going to be difficult, but maybe it's not worth it. But what you were describing there in terms of this highest spiritual self seeing something that's worth it, but also potentially, one could get wrapped into climbing the ladder of spiritual advancement as well, which could pose its own challenge, I think. So that was the third one.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll try. I mean, the next few slides do cover some of those aspects, but just to, as you mentioned, everything starts from subtle to gross. And in terms of love itself, love is expressed you can say, keep saying to your spouse or the significant others, or even your family members, I love you, but they look like empty words if they're not backed by action, because actions speak louder than your words. So love is expressed in various forms, including being compassionate when someone is struggling, understanding, empathizing. Oh, I understand why I've been in that situation. I know how you'll feel, and maybe reaching out and sharing, just even listening and maybe even sharing, yeah, I felt like that, is also in form of love, because only unless you have love, you won't feel compassion or empathy. Service is another way. For example, if you ask any mom, like even my wife, before she goes to office, she gives me a checklist, make sure there is a table, the plate is on the table, make sure my son eats this, my daughter eats that, and they make sure they don't forget the tiffin. So like she has all the thing listed, and then she goes, and when she comes back, the first thing she asks is, did they eat this? Like, so it's love. She's constantly meditating, because she really loves the kids and wants to make sure. I'm just amazed how much attention they pay, to make sure they are well fed, they're healthy, they are strong. It's another form of expression of love, where the amount of attention you pay and serve them. So love itself is expressed in various actions, and we'll talk about some of the actions which we can take to express our love for the Supreme. And as you said, it's a very high bar, and there are ladders to it. But the most important thing is, it's a journey. It's not it's not a start and finish, more of a journey. And once you are with other spiritualists and collectively you all are doing service and enjoying with each other in doing service, and as you're making progress, so the journey becomes fun, and you will reach the destination. So as long as you are on a bus, the bus is going to reach its destination. It's just how can you make the travel, the journey itself joyful. So that's important as well. So I know I may not have, I'm still trying to think if I answered all the questions, or there are a few other slides which we'll definitely touch upon it. But does it answer the question? Any follow-up? Or
Yeah, it's very helpful. Thank you. Thanks for taking the time to address those points.
Thanks, Charles. Thanks for bringing that question up. Very helpful. Thanks. Any other questions, thoughts from anyone, or should we continue with going to some of the other slides? No, then let's continue with the rest of the slides. So once we understand the relationship with the Supreme, and of course, we understand the goal being love, or exchange love in relationship with Supreme and all the living entities who emanated from Supreme, then we need to know then how to express love, as Charles asked. That's what is Abhidheya, or the means through which we can express those love, is to be always constantly engaged. And how can we constantly engage? Is through our thoughts, thinking of the Supreme. I mean, we are getting food today. It's because we purchased it, but it required sun's energy. I'm sure none of them can claim, none of us, at least I can claim that I had any role to play in sun giving the energy to plants so that they can give me the grains and fruits and vegetables which I'm eating, or making sure that the environment temperature is maintained at a certain level so that my body can sustain in this world. So if and oxygen, I mean, there is oxygen for me to breathe. which I had no role in creating or maintaining. So if I start looking at every aspect, every second, there are so many things which the Supreme has done to maintain us. And and we can be grateful for having given us all this. So through our thoughts, through our words, we can exchange our gratitude and our with each other about the Supreme and all its creation, or through our actions. So these are some of the ways in which we can always be engaged in service of Supreme. It starts with hearing. So hearing includes books, reading from books where it's mentioned, it's detailed about spiritual knowledge, hearing from each other who have read the book or have read from others. So once we hear, then we can set our goals. That includes hearing every day, or chanting every day, or helping each other every day. We can make some goals and make incremental progress towards goals so that we can be constantly engaged. And we need to have spiritual obsession or greed, as Prabhupada calls it. He says that just desire is not enough. You should have obsession or greed to really pull you up and go to the next level. Because once you are obsessed, and once you have the taste of relishing spiritual association, relishing spiritual knowledge, then you want to just, in spiritual music as an example, then you want to just keep listening to it because you're obsessed, you'll just love it. And then sacrifice your now for what you can become. So I mean, you can be thinking, yeah, I can do this and earn more money, or I can chant and be grateful. So we have to strike a balance. It's not that we just one or the other is required, but both. So as long as you keep a balance and you sacrifice some of your time, some of your attention towards serving each other, serving the Supreme, that's another way through which you can be engaged, and another means to reach the Supreme. Second is always seek service. As I mentioned, there are various ways of expressing love, and one of the way is service. When you serve others, service conquers Supreme's heart, because even the Maha Mantra, which we meditate on, is praying to give service, which is a form of exchanging love. And we have to do service for the sake of service, not for any return of any material things. And we can start anywhere. We can start where we are today, and we can start serving. And there is no disqualification in this, in the spiritual service. For example, if you want to maybe go and cure somebody who has cancer, you won't be able to do that because you first need to study and become a doctor and have several years of experience before you can start treating patients. But if you want to do any service in the spiritual realm, you can get started. There is no preconditions or qualifications, and there are different ways to serve, including hearing, wisdom literature, chanting, remembering, offering prayers, and serving each other. So that's another way to engage and remain in the connection. And last is always lead with love, because when you love Supreme and all the creations of Supreme, the mood in which with which you would approach is different. You will love is in little things, like it's always the intention and the attention to detail that you put in. For example, if you love somebody, you may remember the person's birthday. For example, a little child, son or a daughter might remember it's birthday of my mom tomorrow. He may make me some preparation, or she may make some preparation. She might go out in the garden, pluck the flower, and keep it ready. Yeah, tomorrow morning I'll wake up, and first thing I'll say to my mom is, "Happy birthday, mom! Thank you for everything," and give the flower. Now, the flower itself likely was planted by the mom, watered every day by the mom. Everything was done by the mom. But then finally, on the birthday, when the child gives that flower, the same flower which technically belongs to mom, the mom is very happy, is delighted, the best gift she has received, because the child has given that with a very loving intention, and that's what matters. So love means to serve, and it's, as I mentioned, the active principle. If you're just sharing in words I love you, but actually don't back it by it, like like my wife keeps reminding me, I do have to do dishes. I mean, I can keep saying I love you, but if I don't do dishes, it is not expressed in the right way. As an example, like that, in every relationship, there is an act of service, serving and receiving, reciprocation. So it's just beyond, it's not just feeling, it's beyond feeling. And to serve is to please. So you're trying to please the other person through by some sacrifice of time, some wealth, or etc., or even effort. And when you sacrifice for the pleasure of Supreme, that is called bhakti, and that's bhakti yoga. Or yoga means connection or union with the Supreme, and bhakti means through service, by serving each other and serving Supreme. The path of that yoga is bhakti yoga. So once we serve each other and once we serve Supreme, then we obtain our goal or prayojana, which is loving relationship with Supreme. Supreme takes notice that, yeah, you're putting in effort, take me to do service, to make others, each living entity happy. Once he says that you're putting in effort, then he will give the Supreme will give the real intelligence, which will be to reveal reality from the illusion. Make sure what is real, what is permanent, what is temporary, give the intelligence so that we can understand. And the highest reality is, truth is the reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. And once we achieve that knowledge and we pursue the path, then we can connect with Supreme. So I did have another video. I think it's 8-10 minutes long, but it's a sweet message. So let's quickly play and see if you have any final thoughts in the end. Take reflection on.
Morning is the perfect time to start a spiritual practice, to start one spiritual practice. There's a calmness in the air, and there's a special energy that happens just before sunrise and as the sun is rising. This is called the sandhya, or the juncture between night and day. And this is a hallowed or very much appreciated time by the yogis and all spiritual practitioners who know about this time. Actually, an hour and 40 minutes just before sunrise is called Brahma Muhurta. And during this time, you can perform your mantra meditation and be peaceful. Keep everything turned off. Don't have devices near you that can distract you. Just take this time to go inwardly and notice how your mind is working. And the mind is a subtle energy, as Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita. There are gross and subtle energies that make up this world, and our bodies are actually made up of these energies, both gross and subtle. And the mind is not us, although some people think I am my mind. That's a mistake. We're beyond the mind. We can objectify the mind. We can look at the mind and watch how it's working. Therefore, you can logically understand that you're not your mind. And as you observe and see, I'm not my hand, I'm not my leg, I'm not my stomach. The stomach is digesting, it's going on with its business, just like a dishwasher goes on, albeit more complicated system, the digestion. So similarly, the whole body is going on without me. Very little needed to run the body. And then in that state of awareness that I'm the witness of the body, you can begin to chant the mantra. As we've learned on Success Sadhana, there are various mantras. one of the gateway mantras is Nitai Gauranga. Sitting in a comfortable place, then objectifying the body and the mind, begin the mantra, speak it with your tongue, and listen with your ears, and notice how the sound vibration resonates. And the mantra means that sound vibration that lifts you above your mind, delivers you from the mind, because we're actually in a whirlpool and we're caught by it. What is that whirlpool? It's the mind. It's dragging us down. Sometimes we come up for air and other times we're dragged down. This is called in Bengali habudubu. Habudubu is onomatopoeia for I'm drowning. It sounds like bubbles coming up from the water. So to rise above the mind and actually notice oneself as pure spirit, pure consciousness, beyond the body, you can chant the mantra. Start by breathing a little bit and noticing your breath. And then begin, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga. And listen, take the time to hear the mantra and just let it resonate. Our minds are in discord because of mixing it with matter, mixing up with matter. This is called dvitiya. I think that I'm the material body or the mind, and therefore I'm full of fear because the mind and body are diminishing at every second. They're perishable objects, and I don't like that because as pure consciousness, I'm not perishable. I'm always in the present. I always exist, always have existed, and always will exist. So you can separate yourself from the maelstrom of the material world through the mantra. And after you sit for some time and just listen to the mantra, let your lips and tongue do the work. And then you can go into the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And repeat and just listen to the mantra. If you don't know it, you can have a card near you so you can keep looking at it until it becomes natural. And as it comes off your lips and into your ears, just listen for the sound vibration to sound mystical. It is. And in that awareness of the mantra, you'll start to notice the benefits of chanting the mantra. If you do this every morning, start with what you can handle, turning off everything else, being with yourself, being with the mantra, and just listening. Practice this. If the mind runs off, and it will, just gently bring it back under the control of the mantra and let that be your meditation. And if you start sometime when the sun is coming up, then the rest of the day will become a marvel to you. You've done your mantra meditation, the world will look different, and you'll be different because you've had a glimpse of who you actually are, and you've had a sense of the wonderment of the universe, the fact that we're not the controllers, everything's going on around us, and there's a higher force at work in our lives. Just having that sense will give you a lot of peace. And when various ups and downs come during the day, good news, bad news, you won't be as affected because you'll be connected on a higher level with who you really are. So start this as part of your day. I also recommend if you can add one other element in the Bhagavad Gita or other books like the Sri Ishopanishad, you can open to one page, maybe mark it the night before, and just read one verse.
Again, another nice message from Vash. I really liked how he explained that if you can do mantra meditation in the morning, then the rest of the day would be a marvel, that would be a miracle. So hope we can attempt that a few days and see how you feel. So if any last minute questions, comments, reflections, thoughts before we sign off? No? Yeah, thanks, Jesse. Thank you for joining today. And yeah, thanks everyone for joining today. It was wonderful to have you all. So please, let's sign off as Vaish always encourages to keep the transcendental vibration going. Let's say a big Haribol and sign off. And I hope you all have a very good weekend. Haribol!
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 Thank you all and see you soon.
Thank you so much.